Welcome back to the shop today, guys. Today there's a tool that I need, and I'm gonna try to build it, and I'll take you guys along with me. So let's get to it. So a guy cuts a lot of little things on his plasma cutter, and it gets really annoying trying to clean them up. I do a lot of little keychain stuff and things like that. It gets really annoying cleaning them up. Your fingers get really close to the wire wheels and all that jazz. It's just not fun. I've seen a lot of guys use parts tumblers. They seem to work really good. I don't really have the money to buy a parts tumbler. A lot of guys use the concrete mixer from Harbor Freight, but I'm in Canada, so I gotta go get one down in the States, yada, yada, yada. It's a big old mess. I'm gonna use this. It's a pail, drywall pail. Needs to be cleaned out, but we're gonna use this, and I've designed a frame that holds this guy sideways. And to power it, we're gonna use this guy, which is a wiper motor. This is an Amazon special for about 40 bucks. Just a universal wiper motor from a car, 12 volt. And we'll get into all that later. But first I'm gonna cut the frame, and I'll show you a little photo probably right now of kind of what I was doing and how I kind of came up with the idea. The idea was to use things I had, make it as affordable as possible. So far, all I'm into it is the 40 bucks for the wiper motor. I guess you could count steel in. I get a bunch of these random cuts from other places, either my work or there's a couple other people around who know that I take decent sized scrap. What they consider scrap, I consider good. So there's a lot of benefits that way. So I'm hoping to keep this guy as cheap as possible. I mean, the pail, I actually, when I moved to this shop, this is a new shop if you didn't already know that. This is like my first or second video in the shop. My last video showed how empty it was. Now I gotta clean up all this. But that's what you get from moving. This pail actually was just here. Not to mention I have a bunch of pails, but this one's a freebie. So anyways, I'm gonna cut the frame, and then maybe you'll be able to understand a little bit more of what I'm going after. All right, so we just took it off the table. You saw it get cut. This is the top of it. The idea here is to be able to make this all bend by hand and as simple as possible. I think this is out of, kind of guessed on the material. I want to say 12 gauge, 14 gauge, something like that. Maybe if I can find my caliper, I'll measure it for you. Put my logo in a couple of places because why not? And yeah, the idea here is to be able to bend this all up by hand So that way, if somebody else wanted to build this, you know, you can. Plus, I don't have a brake, so I need to do it this way usually. For those of you who are curious on the dross, this is right off the table. All I did was wipe it with a rag. The outer edge, very good and clean. These small areas with the lines, I can never get those very clean, but the edge I'm very happy with. And you know, 90% of this, wire wheel, 2 seconds, gone. So not too concerned there. There's a little bit of bow in the material, which I was a little unhappy about. I should have picked a flatter piece, but I think by the time I have the bends in it and stuff like that, I don't think that'll be much of a problem. So anyways, I'm gonna clean this up and then maybe I'll bend it up. Actually, no, I won't, because I wasn't sure what the bolt pattern was on this guy. So I'm gonna drill those holes in here. This is where it'll mount on the backside. So I'll drill those holes once I have it cleaned up. Then we'll bend it all up. And I might even see if I can get a bolt in here, because I'm actually using bearings. I have a handful of roller bearings left over from a previous project. I wanted to use wheels. I wanted to use like skateboard wheels or rollerblade wheels or caster wheels, something like that. But this is what I have. And so I'm going to use these for right now and see how that turns out. Maybe the second rendition will have actual rubber wheels. And the reason the wheels would be better, this isn't a precision machine, right? It's a pail on a frame. So rollerblade wheels or like caster wheels, if I have anything, something like that. Yeah, some sort of rubber wheel would be more forgiving on a pail. So anyways, I'm going to get to this. I'll bring you back in a bit. Okay, so got the holes drilled. Yeah, maybe I missed one. I don't know if you can tell. But anywho, those are drilled. So this is ready to get mounted. Found this in my junk drawer. This is a 12 volt, 1 amp. I think it should be enough. I'm looking for the 12 volts mainly. So this should be enough for me to get this guy going. So I'm going to test some wires out on this guy. It's pretty easy to find out which one is the ground here, because it's this black one is tied in. So you kind of know that that one's the ground. So I just got to find out which one is our powers. Now this is a wiper motor, so it's got a high and a low speed. There is a way to hook up a potentiometer, or I think that's what it's called. I don't know, something fancy, to actually control the speed. But I'm not worried about that. I'm just looking for our slow and high. Just that way I know what I'm looking for, and I'll kind of decide which one I want to choose. So I'm going to play around with the wires here a little bit, get this thing going, make sure that that's all going to work for me. And then I'm going to bend this up. Yeah, let's get to it. All right, so motor checked out good. If you do end up buying this exact same motor, I'm sure all the motors are different. It's the black wire is the ground, the green wire is your slow, and the yellow is your fast. Just in case, I'll try to put a link. I never remember, but I'll try to put a link to the one I purchased in the description below. So anyways, I got it all bent up. So this is kind of what we're looking at. So these are our bearing pedestals. These were just feet, and everything's sitting a little bit at an angle. That way everything kind of slides down into the bucket. So I'm going to go ahead and put the bearings on. Then we'll see if the bucket even fits. I don't even know if this is going to work, but I don't know. Version 1. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I got the bearings on. Threw a washer in there so they all free spun nice. And so the pail actually fits quite nice. Sits up against that lip. And you know what? Works better than I thought. I still think wheels would have been the way to go. It also would have been a little quieter. However, parts tumblers are never quiet. But yeah, no, it works pretty good. And especially once weight's in there, it's going to be a lot nicer. So now I'm going to mount the motor, kind of figure out what I'm going to do here. Oh, I didn't check my center. I don't know if I can really even see that. But yeah, it's pretty good. I'm actually impressed with the alignment with my measurements. Usually if you do bending tabs like this, you never quite know where they're going to end up. So anywho, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a crossbar that bolts with 2 bolts on the outer edge to our pail, and then also bolts onto this shaft here install the motor, and away we go. Right? Should be that simple. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly design a crossbar, get that installed, see if it works. Okay. So maybe I went a little too far ahead of you here. So I got this all mounted. I built a little bar here. One thing I did make a mistake on is how much these bolts stuck out. So I actually used the factory arm that came with it as a spacer. That's why it's bending here a little bit. I guess I learned that maybe I should start putting hardware in my drafting. Like when I'm drawing something up, put hardware in. That way I know I'm clearing stuff. But small price to pay. So anyways, this so far works. I'll plug it in here. Give me a second. Now this pail actually has a little bent spot that keeps touching there. A little bit of clearance issues there I could have changed. But all in all, this thing works. This is the slow speed. But it's going pretty good. Now I was just throwing stuff in there just for like weight. Doesn't really seem to affect it. So kind of pumped with how this was working. So now I need to find something to throw on the inside of here to agitate the parts. Otherwise the parts will just sit there and slide at the bottom. So I'm gonna go see if I have some bits of angle iron or something. I've seen guys use blocks of wood. Like, it doesn't need to be anything fancy. It just needs to be something to grab the part, bring it up a little bit, and toss it. So I'm gonna see what I can find, and yeah, we'll go from there. Well, seems to be working. Just gonna spin it around here if I can. So everything's mounted up. And so what I did is I just threw 2 pieces of angle iron in, bolted them through the top, and away she goes. I might put 2 more in so it tumbles a little quicker, but I got all these little keychains that I cut. So this is what we're dealing with. This is a bad one, but this is why I want to use this as a test. So that's what I'm trying to hopefully it knocks it all down, cleans it up a little bit. These things are noisy, boys. I guess I kind of knew that. So anyways, I will turn this thing on for you. We'll just plug her in. I'm gonna find where I put my plug in. Right here. Bit noisy. But it is tumbling. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this run for a little bit longer today. My neighbors are a little picky, so I'm not gonna be running it overnight, but I'll come back tomorrow and run it. After work, I'll just turn it on. Kind of busy tomorrow anyway, so I'll just keep an eye on it, let her go. I don't know, and see what it does. But so far, it does exactly what I wanted it to do. I just hope it cleans the parts the way I want them to. But anyways, I'm very pumped with how this went. It's kind of I'm kind of proud of this one because it's kind of just a simple design. Anybody can do it. I might even make these plans available. I don't know if there's people interested in this kind of thing. If there is, well, let me know. I could probably send you the file or something, or I might sell it. I don't know. But it's all foldable. Nothing was welded. Basically, and all you need to do is find a wiper motor. And I mean, I had to space some things out here. Some things I didn't quite think through, so I threw some nuts on here to space it out. But that's also because of my debacle here with the bolts and the angle irons in the bucket. Other than that, the guy just needs a chunk of plate steel. So anyway, no, I'm pretty pumped that this works. I'll do a follow-up video a little bit later and see if this actually does what I hope it does. And if not, well, we'll go back to the drawing board. You know, I'll just do a follow-up video in this video because it's been taking me too long to get this video out anyway. But boy, is it hot. It is very hot. Mind you, I think it's hot everywhere. I just had 2 beads of sweat go from my ears to my butt crack, and I think the left one won. But anywho, I've been running our Tumbler for a few days, but sadly only about an hour to 2 hours at a time. Something that I didn't think of, this motor gets hot. Gets hot that you can't touch it after about an hour and a half. So I don't know if it's just too much load for it or if I don't have a big enough motor. I mean, I just bought a generic motor. Does it work? I would say yes. It is cleaning the parts rather well. This is the front side. Back side still has some of the heavy dross. But I also don't have any media in here. I was talking to somebody, they said throw media in here. Now I don't have any. Here's a before picture. So I mean, it does clean up. And it's a lot less work for myself, but yeah, there's some tweaks. I am gonna put a motor on the side, maybe chain and sprocket it, because of this issue I'm having. I don't want to buy another motor, and I don't want to burn this one out because I might use this for another project. But it seems like this is just too much load for it. But I think the idea is sound, and the base plate worked out well. So I'm happy with it. I do like what it's doing. It's just not able to go. So I'd like to run this thing like overnight and stuff like that, and I think then it would be no problem. The only thing it did really, really well was I threw a handful of nuts and bolts in there to act as some media. And this was my rust bucket. I had the same coffee can everybody has, full of rusty hardware. And this is what they all came out as. So now I got a handful of nuts and bolts that kind of clean themselves up, which is kind of cool. Plus it did help with dross removal. So I think a media or a stone or something like that would work a little nicer in there. But all in all, I'm gonna have to change the motor to something bigger. I think I have a 1/2 horse compressor motor here somewhere. And I'll cut a chain, or I'll cut a sprocket for it, and I'll run it that way for now. The idea was good, just didn't quite pan out. And if anybody has ideas on if there's a different windshield washer motor or windshield wiper motor that I could use, like from a bigger truck or something like that, that they've done something like this with, please let me know, because I would like to continue to do it this way. I like this. It's nice and compact, not so bulky, and that was the whole point. I wanted to be able to throw this thing like under a shelf and forget about it. But with a big motor off the side, it's a little harder to do that. But anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. This was a fun project for me. And if somebody does want the files, I don't know if I'm gonna sell them or give them away, I'm not sure. But if somebody wants them, message me or throw a comment below. I'll message me on Instagram maybe. You can find me at Leckerman Fabworks on Instagram. So you can go follow that page too if you want. I show all my projects there and all my powder coating and stuff and signs and events that I go to. So anyway, thanks for stopping by, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. See ya.